Okay, we're ready to start with this first session of the second day, so session number 4 for this training. Yesterday, as a small brief resume, we have seen a lot of things that we can integrate in the BMS, platform, and we have seen more or less in depth the item tree with a lot of functions that we can combine together. We have seen how to integrate different protocols. We have seen how to also use different kind of data points that we can also use for supporting the projects, integrating OPC also servers. So in resume, what we have seen more or less is the functionality that we have in the BMS platform, but also in the multi-protocol server. That is a sort of light version of the platform without all the things that we are going to see in the next days. So the multi-protocol server is one of the legs that we have in the solution, without the rest of the things, without visualization, without management. But this, as you have seen, it's very interesting to have a tool that can take a lot of information from different protocols and can be used to serve this information to a third-party clients. For example, OPC UA, OPCDA clients, or BACnet clients. So we have seen everything. All these examples have been explained yesterday. But today we have to continue with the rest of functionalities of the BMS platform. Okay, multi-protocol server stops here more or less, because in the third session number 6 of today, we will see the Fidelio integration or the door lock system integration that is also part of the multi-protocol server. But in principle, everything that we are going to see from now is not included in the multi-protocol server, but it is a very important part of the BMS platform, that the solution that we recommend you for your projects 99% of the occasions. But we have to see a lot of things. Yesterday we missed to explain the module branch of the item tree. Today is the day to explain all these things. But before, we will start commenting a very important part of the BMS platform, that is the web manager. Web manager is a web tool. We can access to the web manager here with this button. So we are going to be connected to our local host. Okay, it's the IP of the IP to access is the IP of your server. So it could be localhost, like this case, because I am connecting to my own computer, from my own computer, but you can do it remotely. You can do it from a different computer, just putting here, in this case with secure HTTPS, with the IP of your server and the port 21001. If you remember, yesterday we commented about these ports because we have a tool that is called the BMS Service Control, and in the details of the web manager, the ports were also shown. So for the web manager, that is the first column of this information, you have two different ports, the non-secure and the secure port. So this port is the port that you're going, well, you can see here. So this is the only thing you need to remember if you want to access remotely. Is very simple. Just put the IP address of your server, of your computer where you have the BMS platform, and that port, and that's all. The login is automatically appearing when you put this IP plus the port. But in this case, it's localhost. So the first thing you have here is the login. There is only one initial user configured automatically, that is the admin user. Okay, and the password, I will write it near the user so you can remember. The default password is change me. This will be the password, change me. This is for you to remember that it's important to change it in the real project, because it's a common, a known password, and you should not leave it after you finish the project, but it's the password for the super admin profile. Super admin means that you will be able to do everything, even creating other profiles, even deleting other users or whatever. So it's very important that this password is changed at the end. But this is just a first approach of this and the user management. The admin, and then I write the change me password so I can sign in to the VMS web manager. And here, what we have is a lot of different apps that we are going to take a look and do some examples. You can see in the top which is the user that is now logged. Okay, so we were going to deal about the users now. You can see also some information about your VMS platform, your license that in some days I will have to renew from my colleagues, the number of data points or whatever. Just it's also here remotely connecting to the VMS server. This is very important, and it's engaged with the server and getting all this information from the server. And you can do it remotely. So this is one question typical that that you always ask is there only possibility to have a physical computer to know what is happening with my item tree, for example? And the answer is no, because you have the web manager and you can see and you can take a look on the item tree remotely. Remotely means not exactly in the same physical computer as the VMS is installed. So it's very important to know this, because the web manager is not just to configure some alarm or some calendar or some trending. It's for much more things that you may imagine. But it's very important to understand. So we have these main things. First, user that is now working. You can also maximize, or you can exit. Okay, in the top right part, and in the left you have different possibilities here to know the users that is already configured. So by default we have the only one, the admin, but you can create whatever users you may need. Imagine that I want to create for the user, for example, user or whatever. Imagine that is myself. Authentication type, I will deal about this in a second. A description, it's whatever you may need. The language, you can also select the different languages for the browser. The date format also, it's possible to change, and so on. So, and a default page size if you want, depending on the computer or the screen of that user. If it's part of a specific group, for example, maintenance or management or whatever, it also can be created. But now there is no groups created, so it's not possible to assign it before you create the groups. The default role for all the apps is very important also. There is some explanation in the knowledge base in the web page, netexautomation.com, that explains what are the permission for every app for all these different roles that can also be changed. And important, the password for this user. So I will put a very simple password to remember. So we can also log in with this user, so you can see the difference for this. And the validity, that is also very interesting. You can also give a validity for this user. So ending, for example, this Thursday, and this is a possibility to also give a specific validity for one user, because it can be an employee that finished the work in the company at whatever date, and it's interesting to have this possibility. And the possibility to give the super administrator role, that is not recommended for many profiles, because a super administrator is a profile that can also delete it or create new users. So it's important to have control this profile. Okay, so this is the way that you can create users. Very simple. And the users, of course, can be part of groups. So you can create groups, like for example, maintenance, imagine, whatever. And then if you come back to the user, you can assign this group to this user, to this group, for example. So this is a very easy way to the reason for the groups is to make very fast the assignment for the apps, because a part of the groups and the users, we have also the app assignment, the permissions for all these apps you have seen in the form of logos in an icons in the main page of the web manager. You have here that in table form, and you can give permissions to a group, for example, to maintenance. If you give no permissions, these app alarms will be hidden. If there is a difference between the group and the user is the priority for this permission, but you can also give permissions very fast to a group, giving that permissions very fast for every app. And also at the end, well, you have a different parameters that you can also give. From the point of view, the user's point of view, you will see that there is a possibility to create automatically users, but when we explain the GRMS, the last part for the hotel management, guest room management system, GRMS, we will see that the users will be created automatically by the system, but this is not our time to explain this. So from the user's point of view, we are going to use the admin, the super admin profile in order to explain everything, because we have no limits. We can create visualization, we can use, we can create and manage alarms, schedules, or whatever. So let's start doing some examples about the web manager. But remember that this tool is totally engaged with the server, with the core server, with all the items that we have in the server. So if you want, we can show you just a first approach for the diagnosis icon in order to demonstrate that we are taking a look on all the items that we have in the item tree. So you can see here that I have access to all my items here, and even I can interact. It's not just take a look. I can also write a value, and I can send true or false, and it's working. But you have not the camera, but it's working perfectly. Okay. So you have remote access to the item tree, so you can do the test even remotely from whatever computer using a web browser, KNX backnet or whatever. We have access to my OPC items, etc., to my alias. If you remember, this is the item tree, but in the web specifically. So this is very interesting, item tree. Also, we have the possibility to see the gateways. Remember, there was a specific window in the core server in the studio to see the gateway. So you can take a look on what is happening with the gateways, a brief look. So you have all this information. Very simple. You have also the log system, so you can also select the log files. These files are created when you restart the server, so every single time you restart the server, you have a different log file, so you can also take a look on your logs and the web manager log also. So you have different web manager logs. So it's fantastic to have this information in a web format. The diagnosis is the app to do these kind of things, but we need to add functionality, add value to our project. So the way to do this is creating trends, alarms, calendars, events, conditional events, time events, and also integrating different apps like lamps and metering and all these things, and the GRMS, the guest room management system. Also, we can create reports. So there is a lot of functionality that we can also integrate in our project. So we will start doing some simple examples slowly in order to explain how this works. I normally start with trendings because I need time to show you the trendings after the session. So I will start with the trendings, for example, recording temperatures or whatever. So I will do one example of trending. For example, imagine that I want to create one trending, for example, some metering value like the power of my installation or the current or whatever, something that is changing frequently. So now what we have is a window to manage all these things, and we can create folders. It's very important to organize my work. So I can create a folder for test, do some tests. Why not? Some examples in this folder, so it's not possible to confuse this with a real project or whatever. And then inside this folder, we can create trending and chart. There is a big difference between both. Both are very useful. We cannot create any chart if we have not any trending defined before. Trending is the definition of how we are storing the information in our database. So we have nothing in our database created by ourselves if we are not defining a trending in principle. So first is to define a trending. A chart can take the trendings to compare different charts, different graphics, to compare the same trending in different periods of time. So it's very interesting to create charts, but we need first data stored in the database. So first is to define the trending. And it's very simple and it's very powerful. The name, for example, can be Power Home, for example, in watts. Well, this is a big name. It should be more the description. Power, for example, and the description. The item, very important. We have to find our item. But what happened yesterday when I show you in Modbus that we have the access to this device, and in my input registers we get information. So what happened is that this power is shown 10 times multiplied. So my power, my active power, is 10 times the real value. So what we have to do is we can do two things: create a virtual item and create a script that can convert this to a real value, or just select this, and scaling is the option that gives me the opportunity to multiply this to a factor, 0.1. So the value stored in the database and the value shown in the trendings and in the graphics, in the charts, will be the real one because I am applying a factor. This is possible also. Okay, so well, let me check if we have this value working, because I'm not sure that we have this value. Yes, we have it. Okay. We have it. My watt, it's now less than 500 or about 500 watts, but we have to multiply to 0.1 because it's 10 times less than this. Okay, no problem. It's possible. It's possible. I multiply for this. But let me continue. The type of the graphic is also very important. Which value you want to show. You can take all the values that can arrive. So every single value that arrives, even if it's every second, will be stored in the database. Maybe this is not useful, or it's better to have, for example, an average or the maximum value or the minimum value. Let me say average, and calculate it, the average of the power every minute, for example. It could be. The option schedule at full hour is in order to take exactly every minute and 0 seconds. Because if you don't do this, if you select every 60 seconds, it will start counting at the moment I press the save button. If I select this, it will take the value exactly every minute that is changing. So it's not every 60 seconds but every minute that with 0 seconds that is accounting. So average every 1 minute, for example, or the maximum value. Why not the maximum value every 1 minute? It could be interesting. The maximum age of the data, it can also be here inserted. If you want only to account 5 days, for example, the last 5 days, we will only have the last 5 days of the value and no older data. Scaling, you can also have a minimum and a maximum validation. For example, okay, it's impossible that the minimum is less than 0, and in my home it's impossible that the maximum value is higher than 9,000. So if you get 1 million bats, you will discard this data. That is very important for the quality of your graphic. Also, if you can also give minimum and maximum, for example, so you will discard this data. You can also program when you want to storage this data. It's fantastic. So you can say, no, give me only this data the next 5 hours, for example. So you press here time program, and you decide when you will finish to record this data. So it's not unlimited data storing in the database. That is not interesting for me. And the type of the chart, if it's a line, if it's an area, a typical a bar or whatever. A line is okay. The range by default is day, but we can also change actively, as you will see. And the color for the power, I would say more red, for example. So you can also write here in hexadecimal or red, green, and blue, or also write it in hexadecimal. It's possible, but it's red. Including the labels for the values, but it's a lot of information that is not interesting. A graphic is a graphic, and with the axis label is enough. How many decimal parts? 1 is okay. And axis scaling can be dynamic, can be zero-based. Well, dynamic is by default, and it's okay also. So the system decides the range for the y-axis, and a label, for example, could be interesting. The last option, the aggregation, is by default marked. If you want a very precise graphic, it should be deselected. Aggregation is a help for the graphics, for the charts, for the trends, to resume the information, because if you have every minute one data, it's a lot of information to show, and the system will last a bit more seconds to show it. If you want to have it more soft in the graphic, you should select aggregation. I will deselect it now because I want to show you in a few seconds some information, and that's all. It's the only thing you may need is this. So we have now my power trending. If I want to see the graphic, I have a button here, and I can show the plot. There is nothing now because you should wait some minutes to get some information from this, but it's empty from the beginning. But it will be very interesting to come back in a few time and see the result of my trending. I will create a new one, for example. Imagine with the external temperature. Outside temperature. The item, yesterday we could do it with HTTP, and we got information from the weather station, and it was temperature. So we can also have it here. Let me check again if I have connection to this. Yes, I have the temperature. It's a bit cold today, but it's sunny. It's winter, typical here. If it's not raining, it's cold. So no good days, but it's okay. Okay, temperature, the same decision, what to do with the temperature. It could be the average. You can take all the information. The average is a good thing. If you take it every single minute, for example, again, why not? I don't need to scale. I don't need a minimum and maximum validation because I don't know if it's going to get colder. Well, maybe I can put here, it's impossible. I have less than -15, and more than 40. Well, in Asturias, impossible to have more than 35. It's one in your life, but it's okay. This is for consistency. This is the name. The consistency parameters is the minimum and maximum that you can do it. But I put just to play with this. No time program. It could be a line. The range is a day again, and the color could be for the temperature. It's cold, so it will be blue in my case. Totally blue. Okay. No labels. 1 decimal is enough, and Celsius degrees, for example. No aggregation again, and I have the temperature is very simple to create one. And then what I can create now is a chart combining both graphics. So we can create a chart comparing my power, the consumption, with external temperature, for example. So it can be a chart type normal. I will explain the other possibility is period comparison, but will be a second example. Normal is the default to compare in the same time range two or more different trendings. Okay, aggregation by default, I will say yes to aggregation. And then I have to select my trends. So one is the power and the other will be the external temperature. So I have the trendings created before. And this, I can do this anytime because the data will be stored in the trending. So I can do this tomorrow, and it will take all the information from the beginning. Even if you create this one in 1 month, you will take the information 1 month ago because the charts are using the trending information, and the trendings start to recover to take information from the beginning. What I cannot have is the information from yesterday because I have just created that two trendings. So it's impossible to get information from yesterday about the external temperature and about the power. Even though we had these items recognized in the BMS server, but we haven't created the specific trending to store, to determine, to order to storage this information. So we cannot have this information from yesterday in this case. Okay, it's important to understand. Okay, about the axis, it's important because we have two different things. We have watts and Celsius degrees, so the axis should be different. The colors also should be different. The colors should be, let me do it faster, the power, and that's okay, like this. But the axis should be different. So I have to create a different axis here, number 2. The label is for the first, the power, for example, watts, and for the second, Celsius degrees. So I have two different axes. I have to select the second axis for this because they are different things to compare. Dynamic, it's okay. And I can save to create this chart. The icon is different. I have the temperature power comparison. And of course, we can also compare, we can also create a chart comparing the same, for example, the external temperature external temperature with period comparison. And here, this is the way, period comparison. So you can select two trendings with the same information. For example, external temperature, as we said, for both external temperature, but you put here an offset, -1. This means that you are comparing today's temperature with yesterday temperature. The color should be different. Imagine that is like, well, more red. Today is blue and yesterday red, for example. Same axis, so with Celsius degrees. And this is another different kind of chart that we can create. So the question is that we will not be able to see nothing from yesterday temperature up to tomorrow because we are starting to take the information now. But it's very interesting to have these two possibilities for the charts. Of course, we can compare all the days of the week, so we can also add 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever. If instead of the day you can compare months, for example, or weeks by default, but this is not a problem because you can do it also dynamically. So you can change from day to week, so you will have the information from this week and the last week for the temperature, for example, or for the power if you want. So you can compare the consumption of the power, the demand, energy demand in terms of the power in watts today and yesterday, and also compare with the temperature or whatever. So it's all the possibilities are here. It's very interesting. If we can take a look on the graphics, maybe we have some information. Yes, we have some information. So we have a small amount of data, but we have some data. So the power is okay today. This is very small amount of time to compare, but it's interesting. If I say aggregation, it's only one dot. If I release the aggregation, it's not. We can show this as a plot or as a table. If you put a table, you can see the information in a table. This is really, really interesting in different for different reasons. First is that we can dynamically change this, not only in my visualization, in my web manager, but also in the visualization, for example. We can also trigger a screen with this graphic, with this chart, and do all these things in the visualization in a specific window or brochure. We can also select an option for printing this, saving as a PNG, JPEG, PDF file, SVG file. Fantastic. And also the table is possible to export to Excel. So we can export this, Power Excel as ESX, so we can export to Excel this table automatically, and the user can do it anytime. It can also select the range week, for example. So you can see in plot that we have the whole week. Today is Tuesday, so it is more or less center. We can say day is changing this. If we select month, is less information, but we will see that we have more and more and more information. With aggregation, you have a resume of the information, an average of the average. About the temperature, for example, let me see. Again, we have some other information, maybe less, because we are getting this every 15 minutes, so we have less information. We put to have one data every minute, and it's nonsense because I configured yesterday to only do the query every 15 minutes, so it makes nonsense to have every 1 minute the data because we will not have any change. But it's okay, it's not a problem. The database will be responsible to take all this information, and if it's no new information, there is no new data in the database. So this is a small example for this, and then I will continue giving you some examples for different things. Imagine, for example, that you want to create an alarm. So alarms is very, very interesting also because it gives a project a lot of added value. Alarms is not just to send you an email if something is going wrong. This is not an alarm. In fact, the concept of the alarm is the different situations that you will have with the alarm. The alarm can appear, can vanish, can be acknowledged. Everything can be historized in a database, and this is done automatically by the server, by the BMS platform. So this is very, very important because you will have an alarm list with different information, and you will see here. And also you can filter this information and you can show the alarm list in a specific screen in the visualization again. So all these things that I am showing you is also possible to see in the visualization in runtime. So you can see in this alarm app two different parts. This is the alarm list, okay? This is the bell, but there is an engine icon and for the configuration. So we have to go to this part for the configuration. So in my test, there is nothing because we are in the alarm. So we have something here in the test, but you cannot see here what is not an alarm. So it's very interesting. Maybe it should be interesting to create a subfolder, for example, for alarm test in order to organize better these things. But it's only a test. It's not really important. The folder organization is important in the real project, okay? And we will do it when we do a more complex example with the templates. So let's create an alarm. But the alarm is something a bit more complex than we can think in the beginning. I can go to the alarm, but you can see that there is also possibility to create conditions and actions. And I will explain. The conditions is fundamental. If we need to create an alarm, something has to happen to be considered an alarm. So this is a condition. For example, the power is higher than 500 watts. Okay, I want an alarm if the power of my house is higher than 500 watts, because I want to know that I need, for example, to reduce the consumption or whatever. It's just an example. This is a condition we have to create to create the alarm. Actions are, in the case of an alarm, the actions are not mandatory, they are options. If I want to get a Telegram message or email informing me that that condition is true, it's okay, but it's not necessary because the alarm is itself a reality, a fact, and it's going to be historized. If the condition is met, the alarm is true, and in the alarm list and in the database, it will be historized. The action is voluntary. It's an option, okay? But normally we do also actions. Okay, if the power is higher than whatever, turn off that switch or turn off that light or whatever you want to do. This is an action as a consequence of the condition, but the alarm itself is a different thing. It's independent. Okay, this is important to understand. So what to do? If I want to create an alarm, I need conditions. Maybe I will be interested to create some actions so we can configure the alarm. But we can also do it everything at the same time. So you don't need to create conditions and actions before the definition of the alarm. We can go in the same shot. We can go directly to create the alarm. And then when we need the conditions and we have to find the condition, we can create it at the same time before selecting. So let's do it. The example for the alarm is power alarm, for example. Power higher than 500 watts, let's say. Okay. Priority. You define. It's important. It's just info, low, medium, high. It's not different. There is no difference between choosing one or the other, except your own importance. It means that you can order by priority the alarms. You can filter by priority, but it's not a different thing. The actions will not do it slower or faster if you select the different priority. Let's say it's low priority, for example, and then the condition. Okay, let's say condition. There is no condition because we haven't created the condition, but we can do it now. So instead of selecting the condition, we have to do it first. So we can create a condition here. Yes, the only thing we can do is create a folder or a condition. So let's go the condition. Power higher than 500 watts, for example. The logic operation I will explain now is because you can create complex conditions. So you can also put a delay. This is very interesting also because maybe it's only an instant that the bats are going up to 500 bats. Maybe if you put 5 seconds, for example, only if there is more than 5 seconds that the value is higher than 500 bats, then and trigger the alarm. It's good in some case. In this case, for example, it's interesting for wind alarms, for example, also, but it's a question that has to be considered for every single case. The condition, okay, and this is the first time we see this. It's very important. It's an X condition. It's an X command that we can use for this, for the conditions and for the actions. And this is giving us a lot of power in our platform because we can do a lot of things with this. We don't have to write the condition. There is different possibilities, and it's just to select. For example, greater or equal, greater, equals, less, less or equal. This is a typical comparison, but it could be also complex condition if it's not good, or if it's a Lua scripting that you have done before. So if you go for the simple thing, greater or equal is logic. So if you select this, you just have to select which is the input value, the item that we are going to compare, and which is the value that we have to compare with. So the item value is the power. So let's say, where is the power? It's in Modbus. And I will change my mind because I will show you something that I know that it's going to work. I will go to the aerotherm power. Aerotherm power. Okay. Because this two reasons. Because I can activate and deactivate the aerotherm. So the value I can control it and trigger the alarm and vanish it. And because the value here is direct, is not multiplied by 100 by 10. So I will change on the fly, and I will put 100 watts because I know that is the value, minimum value aerotherm. Okay, so this is the condition, and the value is a number, not a string, not a item ID, not a bool. The number is 100 watts. If you want to do a complex condition, you can also add more and more and more conditions. If it's raining, if the external temperature is less than 2 Celsius degrees, and if it's day or night. So if you, all these conditions has to be met, this is the reason you can select and or NAND or NOR or OR. This is very interesting because for a single condition like this is not applicable. It's not considered because an AND with only one input, it's true always. But if two things have to be met, it could be none of that, or some of that, or the negative of the OR. So it's interesting because it gives you a lot of power, a lot of possibilities for your conditions. So no limits in Resume for the conditions. So this is my condition. I save it and I select the condition because we are here to select the condition. Okay, this is select the condition. I will change it, aerotherm. And let me change the description because it's important. So this is the alarm and that's it. I can simply save and that's it. It's working and it's defined because the actions are just options. It's not mandatory. But it would be interesting to get, for example, a push notification in Telegram. Telegram, I will show you. This is my Telegram account. Telegram is an app. It's like the WhatsApp, more or less, but there is a difference with Telegram. The difference with Telegram is that we can create a bot, and we can interact with the account. So this means that the BMS can send a message and you can receive it as a push notification in your telephone, or in this case, in my web application for Telegram, and show to you the alarm, the message. So it's very interesting. There is a tutorial in the knowledge base how to get this configured, and we need first to include in the modules, there is a messenger module where we can also configure how to send emails from the BMS automatically, how to send the Telegram message, how to send SMS using the Twilio service, or even how to publish tweets. So we are social. The BMS is social. It can publish information automatically. It's like a bot. But in this case, it's very interesting. So Telegram, it's interesting to get this. And we need just information here about the profile. A token is a permission that is configured here in Telegram. So if I show you the bot father, you can create a whatever account, so you get a token. This is the token for you. So the token is given you for this. The bot father is a bot that is able to create bots. So you can define a bot, give a name that is not used, and you have your own account in Telegram that you can use for this push notification. So it's very interesting. But this is explained in the knowledge base. So you can take a look and write Telegram in the knowledge base, and you will get this information. I have created a BMS platform account for me for the examples, and the token is here, and the chat ID depends on the terminal on the device that is interacting with that. So there is in that knowledge base example, there is everything is explained. So I see in the chat, thank you, that this is the link for that. But we need to define this profile. So I have to take it from Excel. I have it already created. Let me search for this. I'm not sure if I have it. Messenger Telegram. Yes, I have it. Okay. So I have, this is specific for my telephone, so it's not useful for you. You need your own token, and you need to know your own chat ID. And the profile is a name. It's just a name. You can put whatever names. But this is important to have it because I will need it now. NetText BMS is the name of this profile. Okay. So coming back to my alarm definition, now I can define this. Oleg is asking a very interesting question, and this will be part of the examples we will do tomorrow. How can we send the value using Telegram? And this is very interesting, and I will answer now, Oleg, for you and for all the audience. Because now an action, for example, I will configure the action. And the action will be, for example, Telegram message power high, for example, aerotherm power high. And the action we can select here is a lot of things, because actions is not limited only to conditions. We can do a lot of things. If you want to write a Telegram to turn on a light, you can do it. If you want to send a notification, you can do it. For example, messenger category, send Telegram message. This is what I want to select. There is a profile, NetEx BMS, as you have seen. I have just created, but it's here because the web manager is engaged with the server, and the message is a string. So the question is, okay, I can just write here the power of the aerotherm is higher than 100 watts. But I cannot tell how much is the power. So that's a really good question. And the answer is also easy to understand. We are using here this X logic If you want to use XLogic that can include the value, you can create your own XLogic. So there is no limits for you to do whatever. And in the tomorrow examples with this in session number 8, we will do XLogic that can give you the current power. And this is very interesting because now I can just say, okay, there is imagine a temperature. There is the temperature in the kitchen is higher than 30 degrees. Yes, okay, but it's 100 degrees or just 31 degrees, and it's not a problem of fire in my house. That's very important. But okay, this is a basic thing. You have a message. It's a fixed text that you put here. And it's a good first approach that you have something that is happening. If you need to put a more complex message with information inside, you can create your own XLogic. And I have done it in previous trainings, so you can take a look in the videos of the previous trainings, and the example is exactly that, including information in your XLogic created to use as an action. Because as you can see here, let me create a new one. There are some things, there are Curso, for example. Curso is training in Spain. Telegram with value. Telegram with value. This is examples that I have it already created for some trainings, exactly with that requirement, Oleg. So it's very easy to solve the question that you are asking. So, but now we have just a Telegram message. Okay, on Appear. If you want, you can also create a Telegram. Okay, for example, the power is okay again, and we can also copy and paste because I have the work already done. This is a Telegram message. I just copy paste, and I have a copy of my Telegram message. Just have to change, for example, this description or the name and this text. Power aerotherm. Okay. That's it. So copy paste is also possible. And that's my alarm definition, single shot. Okay, let me check. Single shot means that imagine that you have you are receiving several times the values with more than 100 watts. You are only interested in getting the first, not the rest of the events as alarms. And then if you come, the value is coming down 100 watts. Okay, the next first time it's going up to 100 it will be considered, but not the rest. And also, this is also very, very important, the time program. You can also say, okay, I am the maintenance responsible. I want to receive telegrams if I am at work from 9 to 5 or from 5 to 9 in the night, but not outside that timing. So you can also define when the alarms is going to arise, when the alarms is going to send me telegrams, is going to be considered an alarm. You can also fix this from 9 to 6 p.m. Not only today, if you press daily, it's every day. If you select weekly, you can select, for example, from Monday to Friday. And for example, in August, I don't consider this an alarm because the factory is closed in August. So everything can be done in this way. So time program is also interesting. I will quit it because I want to test it every time. And I'm saving, and the alarm is configured. So the question is how to check the alarm. So we have the alarm list. Nothing is happening because if I show you that value, exactly that value, it is in Modbus, the power tag. Not this, it's this. And this is the power is 35 watts. It's off, but as it's very cold, it's something power is needed to not get frozen. But I can activate manually. I'm doing with my smartphone. So I'm now turning on that aerotherm. And so let's check. The power should be starting to go up, and 100 watts, it's now, for example. And now down. Let me see, because something is on it now. Okay. It's working, yes. And this is the alarm. And if I turn it down again, because I put 5 seconds. Remember, because it was not working because I put 5 seconds of delay. So it was less than 5 seconds up to 100, and now it was now. So it's working fine. And if I turn off, for example, the aerotherm now, it will be stopped in a few seconds, less than 100. It should be now going down 100 watts. And then you will get a different message in Telegram. But as Oleg asked, there is no, now is okay. So, and in the web manager, we can see here that is nothing. It's in the old list because it's vanished. The status is vanished. And in the history, you have everything related to this. Okay. If I turn it on again, I will turn on again and wait for the, it will last some seconds. If I turn on again, when it appears here, I can acknowledge that. So this is another thing that we can do. The action, the Telegram message is optional. I repeat, it's in parallel that as the alarm triggering, alarm management. So we will, I guess, get the, yes, we have it. And this is the power, and I can select it and acknowledge. Okay. This is the alarm. The alarm is active. I get a comment, and everything is stored in the database, in the old list. That now is not vanished, is acknowledged. The status of the alarm is not active. That's the reason it's not here in the new list. It's in the old list. And in the history, you can see who, as the admin, acknowledged this. And this is the text. And you know who was the responsible for this. And you can download, export all the data for this alarm, or select different columns or whatever. If I turn off the alarm, or the aerotherm, in a few seconds, we should get this information, not acknowledged, but vanished. We should also receive that information here, power aerotherm, okay. But if you want to know how many power we have, we need to create a different X logic now, okay. It's vanished, it's changing, and it's working perfectly. It's very, very easy to demonstrate an alarm, how it works. I will close this, and we can go ahead for a new example that it's event. So we have seen trending, so we can take a look at the trendings. Why not? Let's go how it's, for example, the power. What happened with the power? Now we have more, yeah, we have a bit more information. Nice. We can also make a zoom, of course, of a specific part. That's very interesting. Okay, but if you select aggregation, you have a softened line with a resume of the values, more or less the trend of that. If you see the table, you can also see we'll have a lot of more information. That's good. And about the temperature, now we have 2 values, so it's fantastic. Every 15 minutes, no, not so many information, and the aggregation is only 1 point, 1 dot average, but it's also okay. And the external temperature comparison, temperature power comparison, we can also do temperature power comparison. And in this case, it's always using the aggregation because there is maybe a lot of information, so it's by default giving you the aggregation of this. Or maybe because I define the aggregation by default. If I select no aggregation, yes, I can change this in the definition. And then, yes, we get the comparison much better. I think it's very, very nice. And also you can see this in the visualization, of course. So this is very interesting. So third example, one event. Well, scheduler. And the name for me is event. Because a scheduler means or denotes time events, and this is for not only for time events, which is very important, but also for conditional events. For, in my opinion, is really, really interesting. The conditional events, it's very interesting. So let's do a folder here in tests, folder for events. Oops, I can move it. Yeah. And then inside events, I can create. Let's go from down to top. One time event, something that's happening at 3 in the morning. Turn off all the lights or turn off the aerotherm at 7 or whatever. The typical calendar, start, stop, time event. So you have 2 different things to do normally at a different time. Or can be cyclical, every single 10 minutes do whatever this. Or very important, the conditional event. A conditional event is like an alarm, but it's not an alarm. So if you have something that has to be done, a typical if this then do that, IFTTT, this can be done with the BMS platform. And it's really, really interesting for an integrator because we always have to do these kind of things. If this happens, then do this thing, or these different things that can be totally different. So this is really, really interesting because from one side, the conditions can be complex. So you don't have to break your mind thinking how to do specific things. No problem. You can do whatever kind of conditions. And you can include in the event complex actions. One actions can be 7 things. Send me an email, send to my colleague a telegram, turn on the light, move the shutter down, or whatever. So this is really really powerful. So we have in our hands all the things we may need in these things. Okay. So let's do one example. For example, with the start stop time event. Why not? Let's do something with the lights. Why not? One test. So the name is lights schedule for one room. Well, let's say the 4th room. Turn on and off all the lights, for example. The time I will choose afterwards, and I can select the different actions. The actions, of course, are necessary because we need to know what to do from the beginning at the start date and time and at the end date and time. So actions are very important. So I just going to select the action, but the action is not created, but I can do it at the same time on the fly. On the fly, we can select on lights room, for example, and the logic. And this is a basic thing is to send a telegram, typical, send an order, and this is the write case. It's just write. I want to send a write telegram. To which item ID? Okay, the item ID is a central function I have for my room 0104. But if you remember, we are not using KNX, we are using the aliases. So I have a floor one, I have a room, and I have a central off. Okay, the off and the on is the same group addresses. I only have to select the value one. So even if it's telling you off, it's also possible to send on because you send one. And that's it. This is the action. It was easier to find it in the aliases than trying to find it in KNX because maybe it's totally hidden, whatever. This is the on. I select the on, so I have my start action, turn on the lights. The stop actions, very fast. I have this, I can copy, I can paste, and I can edit, clearing this is the off for the room, and I have just to say send 0 to that data point. So it's very easy and fast to do this. And this is the off. So let's test it. Let me open the camera. Not my camera, this camera. Yes. You can see now the camera. And let's do it at what time? Now it's 10:09, so let's say 10:10, and then 10:10, 20 seconds, for example. Yeah, in 10 seconds, it should turn on that lights. 2, 1, exactly. So the calendar is working, why not? should work always. And in 10 seconds, it will turn off the lights. So this is just a start stop, okay? And you can select not only one thing, you can select in your action, you can add and add and add and add things and do whatever you want, okay? And this is just a calendar. You can select also the recurrence, daily, weekly, for example, you say, okay, this is interesting, but only Monday to Friday and in January, February, and March, or November, December, and only winter, for example. This is only for winter and weekdays and the holidays, for example. You remember yesterday the holiday? If you were attending the third session, I put a holiday that it was the next day. Okay, you can include or you can exclude. So it's holiday is not going to work, and this can be also seen in the visualization. You can see this in the visualization. If you select the folder, you can show the calendar here. And you can see the week or the day. This is a small calendar, only 20 seconds. But if you see the agenda, you can see that. Or you can see the month. You can see that every day from Monday to Tuesday, starting today, because yesterday was not created, you can do it. If I select that today is holiday, it's possible to select it here. Imagine that yesterday was already configured. It was done yesterday, but imagine that today the BMS day. Today is holiday. So if I define that the holidays have to be excluded and I save, if I select the folder and I show you the calendar in the month, today is not present because today is holiday, so the calendar today is not necessary, for example. So this is very interesting. And also, again, we can trigger this visualization, this vision in the visualization, okay? So this was an event created in scheduler. If you want to create a conditional event, so in my opinion is really interesting, I will create a folder here. Conditional event. So we can create it here inside conditional event. Okay, let's create a folder. Time event and move. Now, okay, more clear. So conditional event is like an alarm, but it's not an alarm. It's in sometimes is not going to be part of the alarm, but it's going to give you more complexity. I explain. You put a name, for example, imagine the power aerotherm, like before. Okay, a description. If higher than 100 watts. The condition, we have already created the condition. In this case, it's not an alarm, but the condition, it was created, so I can select it. Why not? It's the same condition. I can select it. Okay. And the action, and this is the most important thing. The very first time it was false and becomes true, so this is the flank, the positive flank, the edge going from false to true, you can do something. And the next time it's coming and coming and coming the value, you can do a different action. And this will be the example where I will create a new XLogic, including that the value of the power. So you will get every time you are above the 100 watts, you will get the message. We are now with 155. We are now with 300 watts. We are now in 2000 watts. And if you come from true to false, you can also send a message. Okay, the aerotherm power now is okay. It's less than 100 watts. So this is the very important thing, because you can distinguish between the first time it happens, the next time it happens with different actions, and the last time it happened, or the time it's becoming now normal, the value. So that's fantastic. And this is an example we will complete tomorrow. Okay, so let me save here. And to end this first session, we have seen different examples, trendings, alarms, schedules. I will use a template as a first approach. I will start creating a template. We will do more examples in the second session, okay, about templates, because I want to also create different examples with templates. But in order to understand what I am going to do, I will show you something. I will open a Word file white in blank, because I want to show you something. Let me do it here, because we have our items. It's very interesting. For example, in my alias, I have a temperature for every single room. This is the temperature, and my alias is this. Okay, so this is for you to understand what I mean. Let me do this bigger. Okay, this is the item. Okay, floor 1, room 01. For example, for the last board will be this. So what is changing in these items? This is not changing. This is temperature is always the same. What is changing is this. This is the name, the number of the floor, for example. And it was my decision to number the floors. Very simple. And it was my decision to number the rooms. The room number is including the floor number again. So what I am going to do is to define now variables. One variable between keys, between this symbol. I'm not sure what is the name in English of this. If you write it in the chat, I can key. I say this is a key. It's a bracket, it's a special bracket. This between brackets, special brackets with whatever name, F or floor or whatever, or you can call it X, whatever. This is a variable. So I will say F because it's floor. This is a variable. So this is exactly the same variable that is changing for every single room. It's changing. This value is changing. If the floor change, it's changing. If the room is different, and this is a different variable, let's say air or room, it doesn't mind. But with air, it's very single. So what I'm going to do is whatever, for example, one graphic for the temperature, one chart, one trending, using variables. So I can define only one trending template and then give values to that variables with a file and create automatically several charts. This is the concept of template. So I am going to do this, but the concept is important to understand that idea. What is a variable? This is a variable because this is the thing that is changing. This is the number of the floor or the number of the room that is also changing. So I have two variables: the floor between keys, between brackets, special brackets, with the name, whatever name, doesn't mind, you can put here. I repeat X for the floors and Z for the rooms. It doesn't mind. But of course, if you put F, you remember it's the floor, F for floor and R for room, for example. Okay, and this is the only two things that is changing in this example for the temperature. So okay, let's do it. What is a template or how we do this template? It's 5 minutes time, no more. So we have templates up. Okay, let me delete it. This is for different example. So we will create a new template, and there is a lot of possibilities. And one of that is the trending. Okay, we can create a lot of trendings. Trending name, temperature. Okay, of the rooms. Okay. Well, the path extension is very interesting also because you can also organize in folders. So you just have to imagine that you want to create a folder that is 0 to 03 trendings automatically. Inside for temperatures, for example, a folder inside per floor, and then I define the variable. So you see here there is a variable in this floating window, variable F, and inside per room, for example. And the room has the floor number and has the room number. So then I have just created a second variable that is the room number. If you don't want to classify this way, you can also do this. Everything inside trendings and temperatures, and the 8 temperatures will be together. Why not? It's not a problem. Or if you only want to classify per floor, it's also okay. It's your decision. Okay, so it depends on you. Depends on how you want to classify this. So let me do it more simple without any classification in folders. So trendings and temperatures, this is the path extension. Everything will be created inside this. Okay. Name for the trending, in this case, we need to distinguish. Okay, I can also just, oh, I have deleted. Let me paste. Okay, this temperature of the room, floor room is this variable, no description. And the item is very important. What is the item for this? Let me search and we have the item temperature. I select one, and I just have to change this for this variable, the floor and the room, because we are creating a template. We are creating a template. The type, this is the same. Okay, take every single information. The line, the color is not important, and with no aggregation, and this is the Celsius degrees. And I am finishing my template. The most important thing is to select the item, but including the variables in the item. So you understand how or why I did the alias now, and why I did the folders classifying the aliases, all the items per floors and rooms, because it's very easy for me now to use this. So temperature of the rooms. So how to create all the trends at the same time? Go to trending, using this option. I have this apply template option, very simple. Okay, so I select this. I have only one template for trending, so I have to select it. Okay. This is the columns that I have to fill with values, floors and rooms. Okay, I get the possibility to get a export Excel template that is possible to export, so I can open it. I just have this file to fill, floor 1, room 1, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have 4 rooms for the first floor, and this is the second one, and I have the same numbers for the second floor. If you have 500 rooms, you will take a bit more time, but it's very easy to do this. It's just give numbers. And then I select the file temperature of the rooms, that is here. Yes, temperature of the rooms. So I am now giving the values for this, floors and rooms, and I just select the import. So I'm taking the template, giving the values, so creating 8 trendings here in this folder and in this folder, and all the trendings created at the same time with the correct name and item, because I am giving the values to this. So I'm now giving values to all these temperatures, so I can create whatever charts or comparisons or whatever. But I have created 8 trendings in very few time. Imagine that you have 500 rooms. How many time you need to create 500 trendings? Only minutes. Alarms, and in the next session we will create alarms or schedules or whatever. So we are finishing now this session. Again, 10 minutes extra, but it's okay. So we will continue in the next one. Thank you very much, and see you in 35 minutes again. Bye.